Oh, you're good.
All right. We'll get started. It's Monday, May 19th, 6:31 p.m. I call to order this regular monthly meeting of the Board of Directors of the Fairfield Community School District to be held at 6:30 p.m. on the third Monday of each month. The meeting is open to the public and the public is encouraged to attend. Time is provided in the meeting for public input. The mission of the Fairfield Community School Board of Directors is One Fairfield, where relationships foster growth. We need to change this. Protect learners, unlock individual potential, serve every student every day. Let's see. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mark Porter. Here. Ty Ward.
Here.
Christy Kessel.
Here.
Megan L. Robbins.
Here.
Mark Thornton. Here. Deborah Williamson.
Here.
Dave Eastburn.
Here.
All present.
And yes, we can update the mission.
We'll get that for next time.
Yep.
All right. Do we have any perfections to the agenda?
I had none.
Nothing for me.
Okay, cool. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. Dave and Christy. Any discussion? No discussion. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, up first, we have a focus on learning.
Yeah, I asked, we've got a variety of K-12 collaborative learning teams, and they meet out here about once a month. And so we thought it would be good for maybe a couple of them to come and share what that work has entailed or what it's looked like so far. So we're going to have first our counseling and student support at-risk team, and the representative here is Mr. Jay Thompson. So we'll start with him. If you move that up, I think you can. It's on the backside. We can, yep.
Can you hear me through the microphone?
You good online, John?
Am I good, John?
You can raise it a little bit if you'd like.
Okay.
It'd be great.
Then you're gonna have to lower it.
How about that? Is that better?
I think so, yes.
Okay, great. All right, so I am Jay Thompson. I am the K-8 Success Coordinator and School Counselor representing the K-12 collaborative team that met on Fridays as scheduled. So in our, whoa, I'm gonna get used to the clicker. Okay, there we go. So that's our team. Those are the individuals that represent your school counselors and at-risk success coordinators in the district. And we, like I said, met on these Fridays, and this was our focus. So the overall goal was by the end of the academic year, we'll communicate and collaborate on a building approaches to addressing student needs in the following areas: transition and belonging, connection and involvement, growth and success. So in order to do that, we kind of had to start where are we now? And we listened to each building kind of present on what they do and how they do it, and provided some feedback and got some questions answered during that process. We'll start with Washington. Kelsey is there. I'm there one morning every other Thursday morning. So they don't get to see me a lot, but I'm there one Thursday morning every other week as the at risk, and I see a very small caseload of students individually. The rest is Kelsey, and this is what she presented us. So other children can participate in the school climate survey. Parents gave permission for that. They received over 60 lessons on topics such as social emotional skills from the counselor, and 2 preschool rooms also received 1 lesson per week. She did 4 small groups were held per day, and lessons 4 per day as well, guidance lessons or classroom lessons, along with individual sessions. and support. Sometimes kids in crisis, things like that as well. They use Leader in Me and PBIS systems. As you'll notice, that's a reoccurring theme between all the buildings, is use of at least kindergarten through 8th grade especially, is use of Leader in Me and PBIS systems. PBIS is a positive base intervention system, so it's basically a school climate and trying to catch kids doing things well. So I realize I'm speaking lingo and you may not know what that is. So that is something where we're trying to incorporate a positive school environment. That's been in place since I started in 2016. That's been around since before then. What's added to that over the years is Leader in Me. So they also use high school mentors that come over and meet with some of the kids that are kind of struggling with some of their behaviors as a positive thing. And you gotta make sure you're doing the right things so you can meet with your mentor, and your mentor we can tell your mentor some positive things about how you're doing today. So say things like that. Outside counseling, referrals, wellness support is so again kind of across the board. Any counselor, if the student is beyond our scope of practice, they're going to get a referral for behavioral support outside to families. We sometimes give them a list. Other times families are overwhelmed and we literally walk them through the system, get them signed up ourselves, help fill out the paperwork, whatever we need to do to make sure they're getting mental health services and support. Sometimes that's behavioral support too, like Optime, BHIS, Behavioral Health Intervention System, help where a therapist will come and work with the family, work with the kids in the home and in the community. So we'll make referrals for that too if need be. Some of this is we get phone calls from parents. What do we do? Look, I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do to help my kid. So that's what we're there for. Next one was Pence. Again, they have Pence families. You'll hear Trojan. When you get to the middle school, it's Trojan time. It's a little different, structured a little differently, but it's similar. It's again building that community, building that sense of oneness amongst each other, while also learning some lessons, maybe showing some certain skills or giving back to your school type thing. So it's kind of a mix of all kinds of things. Miss Sarah, who won Teacher of the Year this year, she's phenomenal. So you can see lunch groups, serves 32 students through lunch groups in a week. She does individual and small group counseling. She is just on the move 24/7, I swear. I swear she doesn't sleep. So she's constantly reevaluating what needs to be done, helps with the mentoring program, coordinates the PBIS check-in, check-out. So check-in, check-out is a program for students that are struggling with their behavior. They can get it's a chart, and it tells how often they're on task. And that check-in, check-out system gives them a person to check in with in the morning and set a goal. Let's see if we can do 80% today. Yesterday, we got 79 or 78%. Can we do 80% of the time you being on task in these three areas? Not talking out or whatever the goals may be. Can you get 80% today? And the chart gets marked up during the day as they go from teacher to teacher. And at the end of the day, the checkout person is the same person. Oh, did you do it? Yes, you did it. And celebrations and things like that. So it's trying to help them, focus their energies towards their goals and get through the day in a positive way. And it then also increases behavior compliance and allows for more learning if their behaviors are less. Did a climate survey. They did a community day, Leader in Me Community Day, where you bring the community into the building. Also leadership assemblies once a month. So quite a bit going on at Pence as well. Middle school, same use of Leader in Me and PBIS systems. We do have that 5 through 8, so it mixes 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in a group. It's small groups, usually around 10, around, I think mine's 11. So it helps them develop a sense of community, 5th through 8th. We've had high schoolers come back and tell us that helped them when they went to high school because they knew some older kids in the hallways because they used to be in their Trojan Time group before they went on to high school. And now when they have joined them, they already know some faces of older students and things like that. So it's also a time of instruction. We do a lot of our Leader Me instruction during that time too. It's 10 minutes in the morning. At the end of the day, it's really just a computer check-in time and check in with them and see how they're doing. I've been in charge of this. 100% of FMS students have some type of leadership and or involvement connecting them to school. So we look at anything. It was our WIG, our wildly important goal. Our WIG for the year was that all students would have some type of connection back into the school. And that's really hard to do when some kids, their mindset is school, so it can be tough. It can be tough nuts to crack sometimes. But even if it's a classroom job where they're willing to get up and do something in class, maybe they're not ready to join an athletic sport or a club or something, but if we can at least get them a job in class that they do successfully, we count it. So it's anything, we try to get 100% of our students involved in doing something outside of just themselves in the building, giving back, doing something, feeling connected to the school in some way. And we've met that. We also, I was really proud of our staff. They worked really hard. All of our staff worked hard on these barriers, is what I call them, that the state has put before us for mental health, where we have to get every parent and we have to try to get them to sign things and approve for mental health screeners. That used to just be routine. You had to opt out of them. Now everyone has to opt in by state law. So we have to really pursue some parents to get things filled out and signed, and it took a lot, but we had a high percentage that we were able to do the mental health screener, and I do not have the stats right in front of me, but several students needed follow-up. I would say in the neighborhood of about 20 to 25 needed follow-up with us based on that screener with urgent mental health needs, and some went home that day or went with their parent to seek additional outside counseling because it was severe, and others we just worked on getting them hooked up to services and things like that. But the screener helps us figure that out and catch those kids that we might not otherwise catch. So it's a really important thing, I think, that we do. We did student connection survey. Again, how do you feel connected to school? Do you have an adult? If you had a problem, who is the adult you would see? So we kind of get some names. It's interesting. Sometimes they'll say, no, I don't have an adult, but if I did have a problem, I'd see Mr. Shank. Okay, so yeah, they do have an adult. They have someone they would like to talk to. So I see over 35 FMS students for individual counseling on a regular basis. Some of them are weekly, some of them are bi-weekly, some of them are monthly. Molly sees 25, and then I also oversee the 504 plans for 27 students and any new determinations that are made. So that's a significant thing that I oversee. And then the Middle School Builders Club, they're pictured up there to the right. That's a new club that Rachel Brown from the community from Beaner's Funeral Home, she approached me. We're both in Kiwanis. And she said, hey, I used to be involved in this club and I want to add a new club to the middle school, but I need a staff sponsor. Are you up for it? And I said, sure, why not? So I found out about it, love it. It's teaching kids leadership, community service, giving back. This was packing carry-on bags for the district just earlier, 2 weeks ago. So we packed the bags for the remainder of the year that go into student lockers for them to take home to have food on weekends on families that have signed up to participate, to receive food. So it was another club, another way to get kids connected and to get them thinking outside of themselves, thinking about community service. And Kiwanis, the club is just super excited about it and loves that we're doing it and joined us. They're in the background packing too. High school, 40 new students over the course of the school year have been enrolled and trying to get things set up for that. Tracking building-wide student participation extracurricular activities, trying to encourage that peer-to-peer relationship, building sense of community, sense of belonging. I visited with the counselors over there, and it's currently at 74% when you just look at athletics and fine arts. They are still calculating when you add in other clubs and other things, that number is anticipated to probably go closer to about 84, 85%. I talked to Mr. Courtwright about it too, and he said, yeah, that's correct. So that's what they're anticipated it'll go to, but they just haven't added those in quite yet. Freshman Forum is used to help ninth graders kind of transition to life as a high schooler. They do a lot of the one-to-one academic counseling for students that are falling behind and tracking that and trying to help them pull their grades up. They have offered over 200 credit recovery classes completed by the alternative education students, and 12 students completed graduation requirements as an alternative school enrollee. And they also surveyed the 11th and 12th grade students to determine post-high school plans, leading to follow-up conferences, things like that, to help them find a direction if they didn't already have one. And then 44 students participated in Indian Hills Community College Career Academies, 85 online and 85 online courses taken by students, 23 AP online classes, and 221 enrollees in concurrent enrollment classes. So it's all very encouraging. That's all our students taking advantage of some opportunities to get college credit before they get to college officially. 37 seniors received over $430,000 in local and foundation scholarships, and the counseling office is in charge of organizing that. And they've also met with the 8th grade students and parents to discuss transition opportunities, academics, those types of things, scheduling. Just kind of chucking along here. If you have anything, stop me. So some of the opportunities for growth, just in looking at where we're at right now, Washington, again, some of these, like the Pence one, I kind of said, well, we could have just said Washington Penn's middle school and high school, because it's a lot of the same things. We're all looking to develop the Leader in Me program. We're all kind of looking at how things can be implemented and connected from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, so we have a better continuum of guidance and counseling and all of those things. Trauma-informed practices, again, all of these things are what we're trying to figure out how to help our students and improve their school experience and their ability to learn. Because one thing we know for sure is when these kids come with trauma and they've carried something in that door, they're not ready to learn. We have to help them process whatever it is they've gone through that morning, a month ago, 5 years ago, whatever that's suddenly coming out. And we have to help them learn how to social emotionally deal with that, and then they can learn. Trying to force a student to learn before that, it's like a ticking time bomb. I'd highlight the other thing on there that I'm very excited about is I got trained on the Strengthening Families program, 10 to 14. This is an Iowa State Extension program. It was a 3-day training. I went home every night with a headache. There was so much information and such a good program. I actually did this program in 1997-98 when I was working at an elementary school in Des Moines. It was a 5-year-old program at that point because it started in 1992. It's now been evaluated as scientifically researched, and there was a study, academic study done of 6,000 programs that are offered that could be drug prevention programs, and this is one because it strengthens the family. It teaches them communication and helps kids see their families not as someone to rebel against, but to learn from, and it helps the family be more healthy. And it was the #1 program. Out of 6,000 programs studied, it was the #1 program to find the correlation between reduced crime, reduced drug use. So it's a great program. It'll be offered free to 10 families this fall, and we're looking at another probably 10 families in the spring. I get goosebumps every time I talk about it, because I know the impact that this could have on our kids and our families. I've already got one family that was in my office in crisis, and I said, hey, I don't have it right now, but I have this program. Let me tell you about it. And I told her, she said, sign us up. Yes, we'll be your first family. Yes, we'd love to come to that. That sounds amazing. So I think it's going to be a great program. It's going to be 7 evenings where families will come. We're going to work on finding some community support to pay for meals. We're going to feed them a meal at 5:30, at 6 o'clock. Parents go to a meeting, kids go to their meeting, and it's got a program, it's got a curriculum. We follow the curriculum. The parents, it's a video that leads them with pauses and discussions. And then the kids, it's all hands-on. They're not sitting, they're not doing worksheets. They're up doing activities, things, and crafts while they're learning about that material. And then you come back and you do, and that's an hour. And then you come back and you do an hour together as a family. And you're strengthening your family. You're learning how to communicate. You're doing your family history. You're doing all kinds of different things together during those 7 weeks. And then we throw them a graduation party on the 7th week. So it's a pretty cool program. I'm very excited about it. All right, I'll move on. Opportunities for growth. So these are some things when we as a unit spoke that we thought, this is for the high school. That's the next one I'm thinking of. So the high school said they're going to be working on a seminar period for grades 9 to 12, emphasizing academic success, career readiness, leadership development. They're also continuing to develop a curriculum and academic course offerings, and this continued widespread growth of internship and job shadowing opportunities. I was talking to Mr. Epperson about that just a little bit ago, and just about how that's really taking off, and we'll see that on one of the next slides too, how that it can be supported. Continued promotion of extracurricular activities involvement, and then career fairs. Things like that are all things that they're kind of working on. That's a picture of to the right of the TAG students that toured the University of Iowa recently. John, I might need your help. It's not moving. There it goes. Never mind. It went. Okay. So here's what I thought originally. The ideas for future growth as a big picture with K through 12 counseling. So one of the suggestions, and I think it's necessary, is a full-time K-4 specific at-risk person just between Washington and Pence would be huge. Just because, like I told you, I'm at Washington one morning every 2 weeks. I can't be there nearly as much as I would like to be, given the demands of the middle school and some of the things that they need. So it would be a full-time, this is just the suggestions of areas to consider, things that we could grow, would be to have someone designated K4, someone designated 5-8 full-time. You could easily support that. Right now, K-5 guidance curriculum is like kind of Kelsey's trying to put her things together, Sarah kind of put her things together, and then Molly teaches 5th grade. She puts her things together. We don't really have a purchased set curriculum K through 5 that could be a unified, okay, kindergarten will teach these lessons. 1st grade will teach these lessons, because sometimes we get into where Molly, or sometimes I'm filling in for, well, we did this last year in 4th grade. So it's just kind of hard, the communication, and it would just be nice if there was a K-5 curriculum, and that's something that is a suggestion to explore. Also, curriculum to support individual and small groups of students with social emotional skills and executive functioning development, especially at the middle school. That was from Molly and I. We really feel like that would be beneficial to have some dedicated curriculum to that, as opposed to, we've received some training in dialectical behavioral therapy techniques. We're not doing therapy. Whoa, where did that go? There we go. I'll put this down. You know, we're trying to pull things out of books and trying to teach lessons, and she has a LIFT group, it's the end of the day group, where she's working with a group of students and trying to teach them these techniques and trying to help them learn how to process some trauma and things that have gone in their past. Just some of the basic techniques to come and be a great student. Again, you gotta figure out how to put some of that trauma down long enough to learn and deal with it. And so it would be great, there's some curriculum out there that could be purchased to support that too. And then the high school would love to see a liaison to assist with the growing number of internship placements in Fairfield. They're working on hiring on the position, but their understanding is that position won't necessarily be the person that's going out and trying to recruit businesses and agencies for internships and help place the students there. Mr. Epperson's doing that on top of his other duties, and just finding that difficult. He's got 30 right now, and he said, I'm gonna have, double that in next year. So it's already, I've got 60. So he's just, if there is a opportunity to continue to look at that for support. These are all things that the counseling kind of department thinks would be helpful. And I think this is great that all of this stuff has come out of us getting time to sit down and have these discussions, because we're kind of I'm unique, I'm on 3 islands, but we're kind of on our own little island, and we're dealing with stuff in the middle school. Pence is dealing with stuff at Pence, And so it's nice when we get to sit down and go, oh, you have that, and what do you do to deal with that, and how are you doing this, and let's look at how could this be put together better, things like that. And so I just thank the school board for the time to be able to do that, to sit down and have those meaningful conversations. Questions?
Yes, so this was a great presentation.
Oh, thank
you
you
so much.
Sure.
And it's I think it's really valuable for the children. So what do you see as your SMART goals? How will you know who this is helping and how much it's helping?
So, in terms, we look at, and I put together, I can't speak for every building and how, but I can tell you that I have an at-risk document that I look at, and part of my contract is 10 extra days in my contract. I do 8 before the school year. Those 8 days, I am getting kids ready. I'm helping families figure out if they need school supplies, where to get them, how to get some for free, if they need clothes. I'm doing that stuff on the front end. On the back end, I'm doing my program evaluation, and I'm looking at the data, and I'm looking to see who our top flyers are, and then next year, we can hit the ground with, okay, these people, these are some maybe holes that we didn't see. They had more referrals for behavior. They had more bad grades, maybe low test scores. So what we're doing is looking at that data, and then we're setting up, we have an SAT team that didn't make it into the things, but we have a student assistant team where we meet with the community support specialists and the counselors and the administrators approximately every other week on Wednesday mornings at the middle school, and we sit and we say who has come to the surface as biggest concerns recently, what are some successes we've had, where have we seen success, where could we target some more success, and so we're looking at the data on an ongoing regular basis to see if we're being effective, if we're not, what we need to do we need to get this student hooked into teachers more after school, because they're a slower learner like I was in middle school. So do they need some additional support Do they need that extra help academically? Does this student, he doesn't like school, he's struggling with school, his attitude is that he's forced to be here, it's jail. So how can we improve that? Which teachers does he like? Who does he have is it an associate? Is it the janitor? Who can we get him connected to help him like school or her like school more? So we're always looking at that data like every 2 weeks to see where we can be more successful, more effective.
So it sounds like the relationships are important.
Relationships are huge at middle school level because they think they're grown and they're not, and they need all the support you can get. And if you ever need to know exactly how your hair looks, how your clothes look, just come there. They will tell you. They have no filter. So you can get honest feedback. So no, they're great. I love that age. It's my favorite age to work with, and because they're starting to realize their world, and some of that is painful, and some of that's exciting. Some of that's painful, like not every family's like this. What do you mean? You don't get hit when you go home? I do. So they're coming to that painful realization, and that's what's very hard. But they're also realizing, like, I really like taking care of people. I think I want to be a nurse. How can I be a nurse, Mr. Thompson? Well, let me tell you, these are some of the things you would need to do to get ready to do that. So it's a mixed bag, like life is, right? And we're just trying to help them navigate and be the best students they can be. And I think counseling staff, K-12 does an excellent job of that.
And you're strengthening families. So I picture the kids over in this area, the parents in this area. So I'm not tracking exactly what's happening, but I guess what I would hope would happen is that the parents would be handed the tools and the training
Yes.
to better help develop
Yep.
the children.
Yep, we're
Much
setting
like-
goals and for them, and yeah.
Much like we would expect from a speech therapist with
Correct.
a 3-year-old. The speech therapist is giving the parents the
Correct.
assignment.
Yep.
And
The parent session is prepping them to go home and try something different.
Okay,
Maybe different than they've done, or maybe tweak it a little bit. Maybe they've never used a rewards chart. Maybe they've never tried certain things. This just gives them lots of tools to use from. It uses, you've probably heard of love and logic. This is love and limits. So you're showing them love, which some families need to learn how to do that. And it's also learning how to set limits and consequences for things that aren't going correctly, and how to correct the behavior without yelling, beating, whatever that child. How can you really help that child and learn to be the best person they can be? So we're trying to break some generational things, and it's a very powerful tool. It's a really cool program, and it's really improved since 1997 when I did it before. So, but yeah, it's this binder of curriculum. So yes, parents are learning that. Kids are learning something similar to the kid version, and that what they can do to learn like processing and how to say no to that negative influential peer, how to walk away, and they practice it. This is how you walk away from a negative situation. This is how you seek positive people in your life. This is, so there's that learning that goes on with it.
well, it's a tall order. Thank you, bless you.
Thanks.
How many parents attended the 8th grade to high school transition meeting? Or do we know? Do they
I don't know the
Yeah.
exact, I could find that out for you and shoot you an
I'm
email,
just curious
but I
if
don't
it's
know
like something that
the
we
exact-
could work on, making sure we get, because it's a
bubble
big
size
transition.
more, and yeah.
Yeah, and whatever, and if parents don't attend for that student, do they need some extra support figuring out things?
Yeah, the information goes home regardless. It goes home because they fill out like their coursework, and that sheet goes home, and the parent is supposed to sign off on it, and then it's supposed to come back and get turned in to be processed for like the classes and things like that they have elected to take or want to take, and then and the ones they have to take. But yeah, it's great if the parents come hear that presentation and hear that information.
You know, not always accessible, but
It's tough, and you know, it's usually in the evenings, and I know there's people that have second shift jobs and things like that, and not everybody, you know, it's hard to make something that works for everybody, but I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was recorded, but I could be wrong too, so it could be available to parents outside
thanks.
from that time.
Just one question. I appreciate your presentation, but what I'm interested in, what are the one or two, what's the biggest barriers for getting kids connected to their school, getting them in extracurricular activities, those kind of things? What are the major, you kind of alluded to it, but if you could clarify that, what are the barriers? What are we dealing with here?
The biggest barrier is what I would call unresolved trauma. That's the number one biggest barrier. We also have poverty and other things like that, but unresolved trauma is what's happened to them or is happening to them outside of school, outside of our control, that they bring with them when they come into school. This is not just Fairfield, this is everywhere. And those kids struggle with processing, I like what Pence calls it, big emotions. Processing big emotions. What can you do with your big emotions? How can we get this figured out? And it's definitely been on an uptick. The research suggests that, you know, the early exposure to electronics and these things is very negative, that you shouldn't get a phone until you're 16 is the most recent research. If you look it up, that's the most recent research, is that kids really shouldn't have a phone until they're 16. Their brains are not prepared to handle the nuances of social media and all these things. But I will go to a doctor's appointment and I'll look over and there's a 2-year-old crying or something. Oh, here's your tablet. Just play on that. And then the parent's on their phone. And it breaks my heart. Because that kid's not learning how to deal with their emotions. They're learning to deal with it with electronics. Things like that. So that's one, you know, physical abuse, mental health issues, sexual abuse, all kinds of things that come through our doors every day that we have to try to mitigate and figure out how to help them as best we can. Sometimes that's calling DHS, sometimes that's, you know, getting them therapy services, sometimes it's all kinds of different things. But it's not an easy task. It's one that I love to do, but it's not an easy task. I would say that would be trauma would be the number one. And, you know, just a continued sense of parental involvement. That's another one. Just that they're reading with their kids. How much are you reading with your kid at night? You know, are you preparing them to go to school? It's not like when I was in school and we learned our colors when we got, and you know, you learned your 1, 2, 3s and stuff. They hit the ground running by kindergarten. You're way behind if that's what you're still learning. They're reading by the end of kindergarten. A lot of them are, you know. So it's very important. Just continued parental involvement.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Jay. That's great.
I just wanted to
Oh, sorry.
comment before.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to comment, a lot of folks assume that if kids are engaged in activities, that somehow that's a sign of them being mentally well. And so,
Not always.
so the truth is, you can be a straight A student, in band, in this, in that, only because school is the safest place to be,
Correct.
and you can keep yourself so busy that your brain doesn't process the trauma.
Correct.
You can just fall asleep dead tired and get up the next morning and go.
And just deal
And so
with
you
it.
don't, you know, you're not acting out, you know. So it's gotta be hard for you to know who's suffering from that. If
Yeah,
You
if they
know,
don't tell
where
us,
is the- right.
yeah, if they don't tell us, or sometimes a peer, thank goodness, we've created a culture where peers will come and say, hey, Mr. Thompson, I'm really worried about Susie. She's got this going on at home. She's told me this is happening. She's got some self-harm thoughts, things like that. And so then we can pull her in and just say, hey, we're here to help. What can we do? What's going on? And sometimes there's a lull, and sometimes there's just the floodgate of tears, and like they can finally tell somebody.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jake. Thanks, Jay.
All right, good evening. I promise we won't be near as long as Jay. We're not that long-winded.
20 minutes.
Tops. That's for sure. All right, so we are the title reading team. Part of it. We're missing a couple, and we put together a short presentation for you tonight to discuss our goals for the year and whether we reach them or not. Before we start, I'm Lanny Boyd. I teach Title I reading at Washington, and I have with me tonight Renee Smith from Pence, Amanda Hutz from Pence, and Sarah Polk from the middle school, and then we're missing Rose Smith from Washington and Rachel Dorman from Pence. So we came up with 3 goals that tie into the district goals for the school year. The first was to update the title plan. And the title plan is something that the state requires us to have. Basically, it's just a document, thank you, that we have to have put together of forms that we send home,
Criteria.
deadlines, things like that. And this had not been updated for at least 5 or 6 years to our knowledge, if not longer. So we had said early on this year to Zach that this was something that we would like to get together this year and work on, and he said, then let's do it. So we were able to meet on the morning of January 20th from 8 to 11:30 with Mr. Weigel and Mrs. Jones. Was that it?
Mm-hmm.
And we went through this document page by page. We were able to take out a bunch of things that were old and outdated that we no longer needed to do, and update a lot of the things that we did need to do. We also were able to create a lot of things that created some consistency between the buildings, which had not been done for a while. The next goal was to have 100% of title students to show growth on the FAST or district assessments. And the last goal was to have 100% of title students to feel they belong and have a safe space in title. And we are doing that, or going to show that we're doing that by creating a Title I reading climate survey. And this is what it looked like. We reached kindergarten through 6th grade students, so we wanted to keep it as basic as we could. We have it available on tablet or on a Google form, but especially at my age, we did a paper pencil form where they just got to color in the smiley faces. We kept it as basic as we could. 3 questions were, how do you feel in this classroom? Do you feel your teacher cares about you? And do you believe you will be successful in this classroom? And I was able to give this 3 times throughout this year so that I could see how the data improved. I did have different groups of kids. So you'll see at the beginning of the year on the first question, Washington had 39 students in title take this, and with that, between the happy and the neutral faces, there was 97.4% that chose that. And the end of the year, we had 51 students, and 98% chose that. So it did improve. The second question, do you feel your teacher cares about you? Again, with the 39 at the beginning of the year, it was at 97.5%, and at the end of the year, the 51 was at 100% between the two. And the do you believe you will be successful? The beginning of the year was 94.9% and end of the year was 98%. So all three rose as the year went up. And now I will turn it, oh, nope, sorry. For our growth, kindergarten title students, 20 out of 20 or 100% made growth from their fall to spring on their composite of their FAST score. And 31 out of 34 or 92% of first grade title students made growth on their composite. 6 students exited our title program at mid-year, and 3 would have been able to exit at the end of the year. And now I will hand it over to Betsy. I will still do your clicker.
John back there. We'll stick with the clicker.
All right, so we obviously did the same survey as Washington in the middle school. So our first one, the first question, how do you feel in this classroom? We did it just twice. So we did middle of the year and end of the year. So our students actually were the same students minus maybe 2 kiddos that were staffed into special ed. So we started out the year middle of the year, 83% felt happy in the title classroom, and that increased to 95% by the end of the year. The next one was, do you feel your teacher cares about you? That one at the middle of the year was 91% of them felt that their teacher cared about them, and that increased to 94% by the end of the year. And then the last one, which we kind of talked about this one was hard too, because explaining to our kiddos what successful actually means. So we kind of feel like there was a little bit of confusion with that. But we had 67% at middle of the year believed that they would be successful in the classroom, in our title classroom with what we were teaching them. And then that then increased to 86% by the end of the year.
Now, data. It's like we need a drum roll. We're so excited for PINTS. We have multiple tests that we give throughout the year, but what we primarily put students into title is through our CBMR. It's that 1-minute read that we give students. According to our test results, we are still taking our tests, so hopefully by the end of the week we'll have our test completed. We right now are seeing wonderful growth. The expected benchmark for student growth is 1.4 words per week, or in the course of 36 weeks, it is 50 words increase. Many of our title students have demonstrated outstanding progress. For example, individual growth in words correct per minute include scores, drum roll, 49, 66, 81, and even an 85 word increase. Another exciting part that we are constantly seeing is students' accuracy continue to improve. Many times at the beginning of the year, we see students who come in with 70% accuracy, and by the end of the year, they're reading 90 to 100% accuracy, which is really exciting. And we know as accuracy improves, we also know that student fluency improves and their overall reading comprehension improves.
So along with that improvement, our exited title students, after middle of the year testing, we had 13 title students test out. And then so far, because we are still doing the CBMR testing, so far we've had 5 that would be tested out of title. So that's something that 18 students total so far that have actually been tested out of title. So that's awesome.
I think at the beginning of the year, we were serving 100 and
Close to 115
students, and we're right now serving about 110 students.
105.
Yeah.
105.
So it's exciting to see how many kids we work with and how many kids are making growth. The last thing we're excited about is our A-reading data. It's also still being collected. We do hope that as we continue to test, that our proficiency will also improve, and we will continue to meet goals for our grade level benchmarks.
And then our last thing that we have on here, this is for ISASS, which you guys have already kind of, I think, maybe seen some of this data. It's not tied directly to our title students, but it's something that we're kind of celebrating big right now over at PINTS. Our 3rd grade was at 63% proficient, and that's for ELA. And then 4th grade was 69% proficient. Last year as 3rd graders, they were 50% proficient. So those are some of the better numbers that we've had for 3rd and 4th grade in a while. So we had a big celebration about it on Friday, and it's just something that we wanted to highlight because it's something exciting happening over at Pence. So.
Okay, and then, as said previously, I'm Sarah Polk. I teach title to 5th and 6th grade students at the middle school. So I just kind of put these all on one slide so we don't have to bop through a bunch of them. So how students feel in the title classroom. As middle schoolers, they're not the most happiest to be in my room. Especially when for some 6th graders it takes them out of some of their elective classes, which is really unfortunate, but I'm glad that they're getting the support and the services that they need. But no no's on that one, so that is a positive. Do you feel your teacher cares about you? I had 2 students who said no, but otherwise, I feel really happy for the other about 35-ish kids. And do you feel you will be successful in this classroom? I had 3 kids say no, but the rest said yes or neutral, which I also kind of agree with Pence of I probably should have been a little bit more direct about my explanation of what successful meant to them, because I think for some of them it means leaving my classroom. And for others, I think we've celebrated a lot of growth and they've felt like they've really achieved a lot in the time that they've had this year. For some of our fluency growth, so I put our fluency and our comprehension information on here because for 6th graders, I serve some fluency groups and some groups that are solely on comprehension because the students have met our benchmarks for fluency, but they're still demonstrating some deficits in their comprehension. So first off, all students that were in title made growth in their fluency scores, which was amazing. So from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, 5th grade students, which is about, I think, 14 I have right now, grew by an average of 31.5 words per minute, which is really huge for them. And then 6th grade students grew by an average of 23.5 words per minute. For our comprehension, we use a reading to measure their comprehension scores in the fall, winter, and spring. 6th grade students grew by an average of 10.5 points. That doesn't mean anything to you, I'm sure. But for benchmark, over the course of the year, the expected growth is 7 points, so 10.5 is really huge. I had many kids who were in the double digits, so it was really good to see. And then over the course of the school year, I've had 7 students exited from title. I also have a few that I will not see from 5th grade into 6th grade, and then some 6th graders who would exit, but since we're so close to the end of the school year and scheduling is very difficult, I've just kept them in for the rest of the school year for like the last few weeks. But otherwise, really good positive growth from our 5th and 6th graders.
Any questions?
How many 6th graders did you have?
Do you want like beginning of the year numbers or end of the year numbers?
I guess I'm just curious, like now that they're done with 6th grade.
What we'll continue to do?
Yeah, I mean, I know they won't have title, but
Yes.
how many are kind of at that level still or not testing out of it?
So so on the fluency side, we don't test for fluency after 6th grade. But what we will continue to monitor is their comprehension skills, and what at FMS we do in 7th and 8th grade and also 6th grade as well is we have 20 to 25 minute time at the end of the day called lift. So they would be in a comprehension reading lift if they are not showing proficiency on our A readings tests. And then for my comprehension groups, I had 2 that were proficient at the end of the year. So then I have 8 more kids who are really close, and they will just continue to monitor them as they go into 7th grade.
Thanks.
So how do you guys determine how many kids you guys can each have in your title classes, and then how do you give and take? Because I know that there's been times that certain kids you've thought need to be a part of title that can't be because you're overloaded. How do you guys kind of draw the line with the testing and how all that works?
It really kind of depends on the grade level.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, at Pence, we like to have about 6 per group.
Mm-hmm.
We do 20-minute groups, and they literally come in. Megan actually came and watched us one day, and they literally, one group right after the other. I mean, we just continuously for an hour, each grade has an hour, and it's 20-minute groups, and we take,
three groups
Yep,
per
yep.
grade level.
and it's normally 6, but I know you guys.
We
you're-
try to do less, just because of the grade level, but I believe the title plan does say no more than 6 in a group.
We served all of red
Yeah.
second graders, so we served all the red second graders, we served all the red third and fourth grades, so we, with the
Couple
three of
groups
us.
for like 7.
Yeah, there were a couple groups that, but we try to make kind of our lower groups a little bit smaller, so they can get more one-on-one. And then some of the little bit higher ones maybe have some more kids in them.
So overall, do you feel like enough students are getting served, or do you feel like you have the resources you need, or?
It's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Depends on where you are.
I think our goal is to serve all the kids that we possibly can. I know at Pence, every red kid was served. When I say red, it means they're not proficient on that 1-minute read. So if they have an IEP, they will be getting those services. So if they don't have an IEP, their support would be title services. So all the kids that were not proficient, if they didn't have an IEP, to get some sort of reading support through us.
I mean, I think our days are pretty, we had 2 MTSS groups this year, and with those 2 groups, the 3 of us were serving 10 groups of small groups a day, so.
Makes the day go really fast.
Yeah, it's like Fast and Furious. It's amazing to watch.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Do you guys have any ideas on how to improve identifying and intervening earlier for some of these students?
More support, having more speakers. In the lower level.
I think that just that consistency, I know, and we're getting there. Like, I think Mr. Weigel has done an awesome job at, finding ways to make our elementaries work together. And I think we'll get there even better in the next couple of years. I think just having communication, allowing time for us to talk about, okay, what are you guys doing? What skills are you practicing? What strategies are you working on? And that communication piece, and just making sure that we're all accountable. I think that's the biggest part, is just making sure every kid that is struggling is getting some kind of reading support. And I'm not sure how to get there, but I think that is a huge key to our success.
I'd just like to applaud you all for all of your hard work. It's really so important, and I know the 4th grade class now was learning how to read during COVID in kindergarten, and so you guys have made such huge strides, so it's just a testament to all your hard work, so good job.
Thank you so much. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right. I believe we're moving on to committee reports. Each committee chair will share 2 to 3 minutes update connected to what we've been working on in committees. So I guess we'll start with Mr. Mark Norton, policy.
Yeah, ours is pretty quick. I didn't have it pulled up here, but we met a couple weeks ago and just went over some of the policies you'll see coming forward today. I think they're on the 900 series, so they were our next block of ones that we could review quickly to get some. I think there's one with changes, another one's we're going to delete one. So, and then we quickly reviewed the cell phone policy will become for the first reading next month, and final reading before the beginning of the school year. So you'll see that coming out here soon. And yeah, I think that was it. It was a pretty quick meeting.
Thanks. Ty, do you want to speak on strategic planning?
Sure. We met earlier this week. Looking back on the notes, for marketing, we talked about mission and vision, making a video for that. We talked about kind of who all we would like to tap to get into a video about that. Getting some new people in our videos instead of the same old people we usually use. We talked about maybe having a video warehouse where we can kind of have a spot where all of these are uploaded, so they're easily accessible. Right now they're kind of all over the place. We talked about our plan for the summer, just basically how we're gonna, market ourselves as a destination district through our academic growth, vision, mission, belonging, facilities, diversity, all those kind of things. Just kind of highlighting what we do well and getting the message out in our marketing that we're doing this summer. We talked a little bit about the general obligation bonds, our approach for that, which I think we're going to go into a little bit later, maybe right after committee meetings or something. SIAC, we have an upcoming meeting about SIAC. Sounds like most of the people that were in it before are, offering to come back, which is awesome. And yeah, that's meeting is in a few weeks, the 24th. June 4th. June 4th, yeah. And yeah, that's about it.
Great, thanks. Finance.
Okay, thank you, Megan. We met on May 12th, on Monday. We had a pretty extensive meeting. First of all, we went over the new transportation plan that the district is implementing. The objective of the transportation plan is to optimize the routes and the number of buses to minimize the cost of our transportation plan within some constraints that we have, like crossing hazardous routes, legal limits on maximum time on the bus, legal distance from the attendance center and the size of the district. And within those constraints, the new transportation plan will provide us about $3,500 in cost savings with the routes and hub elimination, and we would service this with 12 buses now. So we think that we have met the goals to minimize costs and optimize the routes and still be able to live within the constraints that we have. We have also been able to eliminate soft costs from efficiencies and discipline issues when the drivers don't know the passengers. It seems the last trip after the transfer hub is a discipline problem. So we have better connection with the drivers and the passengers. So we were satisfied with the transportation plan and the way it will be implemented, and that it meets our goals and the constraints and provides us some cost savings. We will be facing a buy lease decision in 2027. We have buses leased now at a very favorable interest rate. There is a possibility to move to smaller buses, and we have to consider field trips and transportation to extracurricular activities with those buses. So we will be facing sort of a buy lease decision in 2027. So we're going to be looking at that and working on that in that time frame. We went over the cash position forecast for the end of the school year. As we all know, we face, at the end, we have to cover at least 2 months with cash on hand for our expenses, salaries, those kind of issues. So we looked at what our forecast cash position was. Our goal is net days cash of 90 days. We finished last year with only 13 days, so we were very close to triggering a contingency funding plan, and so we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to be close with a forecast to triggering that plan. On April 30th, we had 101 days, and we're projected to have 70 to 80 days net cash as of June 30th to cover expenses and salaries for July and August. And we'll receive a cash infusion in September and October with the collection of the cash levy. We don't see the contingency funding plan coming into play for the district. And finally, we reviewed the financial impact of the new health plan. The district will be using Fund 72 within the general fund to account for the HSA contributions for employees in the district. So we reviewed how those will be accounted for. The total program cost reduction is expected to be $375,000, which includes the premium for our stop loss insurance coverage in case we reach a certain point. We're self-funding, and that insurance then covers the cost for the self-funding plan if our utilization rate is much higher than what we had projected. Worst case, with a higher utilization rate that then projected, than projected, the cost will be $2.2 million for the district, but this will drop our UAB to 13.3%, while the cash retention in the program will cause the solvency ratio to move up to 14.9, so we will have cash. Both are acceptable to obtain the likely cost savings for providing employees with the best level of health insurance we can. And finally, we went over what we will discuss later in the meeting, and that is a budget amendment. We reviewed the certified budget comparison. The committee agreed to review the comparison using the projected FY 2025 as it represents a forward-looking comparison. The committee is cognizant of auditor comments related to favorable or unfavorable variances. That was one of the comments in our audit, carrying favorable variances, in other words, under budget, or unfavorable variances, which are over budget, and carrying them forward instead of reconciling them during the year. So that's one of our goals, is to reconcile those variances. The comparison review revealed the following variances. We have a favorable and projected variance of $346,151 in the instructional segment, which is under budget. Support services, $672,547 favorable, which is under budget, and a non-instructional programs of $174,650, which is unfavorable, which is over budget. And our other category is merely $13,457 favorable over. So the main reasons for these variances are para-educator support for student IEPs that are very, very hard to forecast and budget for, and the results of detailed audit of contracts carried by the district that Zach and Evan have been doing throughout the year. So the committee noted that in addition there was a $200,000 PEPL debt payoff, so that was very favorable. So we're recommending, to avoid an adverse auditor comment and to bring the district into line with best practices for large variances, the committee will recommend a budget amendment to allocate $350,000 from the large favorable variance for support services to non-instructional services in the amount of $300,000, and to the other category in the amount of $50,000. So that's our recommendation by vote of the committee for our amendment coming up later in the meeting. So, sorry for the lengthy meeting,
That's
but
good.
we had a lot to
Thank you.
cover.
We had a lot. Thanks, Dave. All right, Christy, I didn't know that you guys met. Do you have no update or?
No, we're actually kind of struggling with like what we should be doing as an HR committee, so I don't know if Zach and Evan have any guidance there, but I feel like we're kind of just.
Yeah, my experience has been it's usually more intense or busy during the negotiation season, so it may not be something that comes up every month, but more of an ad hoc based on where we're at in the 12-month calendar. The other thing could be, from a HR standpoint, if there's specific things that we would want to bring to that group to see if there would be board support around making a switch or a change connected to some type of practice. But again, I think that would be on a as-needed basis. I'm not sure what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that we've been working on, and I think it comes later in the meeting, and Zach's highlights is we have some continued work we need to do around our paraeducators. We'll be looking at their total value, their belonging, their pay structures moving forward, and then we're going to continue building our hiring practices through talent books and our talent handbooks, and making sure we have a clear picture on how we hire and how we find the next fit for our Fairfield family. So those are some ideas kind of moving into next year that are kind of on my plate that I've been thinking through to bring to the HR committee.
Kristen.
Cool. I'll talk about some high school things real quick. We'll start off with, on Thursday, we have our Trojan Palooza. What is that? We learned about it today. Basically, it's kind of a send-off for the seniors because that's their last day. And so it's kind of just a fun-filled day that I believe a team of teachers have put together at the high school. So I know that happens. Seniors, their last day is Thursday. Graduation is this Sunday. And we'll just move on to sport things. I know the boys track team, they just got done at conference and they had a lot of people that got approved to go to state. So we'll be sending a lot of those off to state, so that's cool. Golfers, I believe we had 2 boys go to state, or are going to state, and then 1 girl, I believe, that made it across to state. And then we had 1 tennis player as well go to state. And our esport team is actually up at state in Marshalltown right now playing for. They have a shot at the 3rd place title for one of our spring games.
They're leading in the first match of the 3rd round.
As of now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, band and choir, we hosted large group this year. That was a lot of work on our end, but it paid off. We got high grades in all of those, so that's cool. And yeah, we're pretty much just winding down the school year. Chilling and killing in style. So, yeah.
Mark Porter?
Yep. Facilities.
Facilities?
Yep. So we met about 2.5 hours ago. We actually met before the meeting tonight, and didn't cover a lot of information, but did touch on a few things. One of the first things we primarily talked about was the bank bids coming out. Basically, there was a handful of banks here in the community that received an RFP, basically, and had the opportunity to talk to the district about becoming a depository for the district. You'll see that come in a vote later on, and Evan will touch on this a little bit more so, but Iowa State Bank is probably going to be the bank that he's going to go on ahead and recommend to us. There were several different factors that came into that. Several, it was community involvement, and another thing was just being the best interest rate. So basically the 4.23% is the interest rate that Iowa State Bank is offering the district at this time, and that's based on a quarterly rate. So there was a few other factors at play as well. Iowa State Bank has also been extremely involved with the community and a few other things. But all that being said, basically that's the bank that they're planning on recommending to us to become a depository. And as we talked about, 4 of us are going to have to make that decision because there's a few board members that have to abstain from that vote, but we'll talk about that later. So we also talked about the bond that's coming up, talked about the survey that went out, and talked about the variety of people that responded to that survey. I think in total, as Zach said, there was about 460 total people that responded to the survey, and about 120 of those people basically said that one of the reasons they didn't vote for the bond was simply came down to the total cost of the project. So there's several different things that we talked about that. There's a lot of numbers that we'd like to start, maybe present to the community, different variety of reasons of why we think the new building will, in the long term, cost the district dramatically less money. So, a lot of that just comes down to the pure maintenance cost of the current middle school, but there's also a variety of other factors at play as well. So, we talked about that a little bit. From there, we talked about the tech update. So one of the things that's coming up for a vote tonight as well is the new iPad lease for the students. Currently, the new iPad lease, which provides, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, an iPad to every student, correct? Is going to cost about $900,000. They can actually trade in the old MacBook Airs, which will actually bring that cost down to about $600,000. But that's going to be a total of 1,550 iPads for the students of the district. So we talked about kind of how the students are using that today. I think I've really became out of date with how little they're using the variety of things that we used to use when we were in the classroom, meaning computers, textbooks, all those things. They're using iPads for the bulk of a lot of those things, to my understanding. So we also talked about, obviously one of my concerns is, you lease those out to, or essentially, rent those out to all those students. How are we, tracking and maintaining, getting those iPads back in good condition, And I think when they sign up for registration, they have to sign some sort of agreement, basically stating that, they're going to take care of it and then actually refund it. They did say that the replacement cost of an iPad if a student loses it or whatever is about $324. Did say that there is concerns, in getting that money back when that does come up. So, but obviously it's going to cost the district a lot of money, but clearly something that they're utilizing and something that they have to get the education that they need. So we'll take a look at that tonight. And that basically covered the bulk of it. So
The paras are getting iPads.
Yes, as well. So, and then Christy and Deb, you're welcome to mention anything that I forgot. So.
I would just say that it's a significant cost savings going from the MacBooks to the iPads. So
correct. Yep.
All right, great. Thank you for all the updates. we'll move along to number 5, bond planning discussion.
Yeah. So we'll kind of start just from what's been happening the last 6 weeks. Want to bring everybody up to speed and get some input or thoughts from the board collectively. But we have had that core team, which includes a few board members, administrators, directors, FEH representatives, Carl A. Nelson, and we've been looking at kind of the feedback from the survey, which I've shared with all the different committees. A couple themes that came from that. Number one, the tax burden and just the cost. That was a big reason why people maybe didn't vote or felt like it was too much, too big, whatever. Another piece had to do with kind of the grade structure, what that looked like. Some other things that came out of that, again, was the cost connected to maintenance versus new construction. So as we were kind of navigating these meetings, we were looking at timeline, what we need to make sure we got done before the end of this school year. Number one was agree to a number that we're going to put on the ballot, the number that we're going to ask people to sign for signatures, petitions, before the end of the school year, so that we could get our employees that want to sign that the ability to do it before we go out for summer. So then we'll kind of have a number of what we need to spend time over the next 3 months, 2.5 months getting signatures on. And so essentially we've got two options, and here's kind of the discussion I'd like to have with all of you, is do we look at pretty similar square footage, space, try to fit as many students as we possibly can in there, go to GeoBond as high as we can get, or do we look at the feedback, maybe scale it back a little bit, reduce some of the square footage in that space, whether that's the 4th grade kind of mindset wing that we had looking at it, or other spaces, and then reduce that GeoBond rate as far as the number. So Evan's going to dive into a sheet that he shared with each of you that you have access to kind of look at those options, and then really we'll just turn it over to you to kind of share and discuss kind of your thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. For any of you guys, you should have this bond options for project worksheet. If you don't, let me know. So kind of what I mapped out is I've been working with MacLSV over the last couple days. I'm just seeing where our current bonding capacity is at, and I presented 2 options for you guys, kind of off the current environment or the current feedback that we received. So option A reads very similar to what we proposed last November that failed with updated numbers. So if we were to do a max GeoBond funding, which is row 2 or row 3, we can go to bond or a max capacity of 39.5 million on the GeoBond.
And that's based on numbers currently, so projecting out that could be higher, but as it sits, that's what it is.
Correct. That'd be if we went to bond today. And then say bond funding would be at a $19.7 million max. So if you took those 2 funding streams together, you could do a total project of $60.2 million. That does not mean the project's going to come in at $60.2 million. It just means that's our availability. There's a projection of about $1 million in interest earnings. So tying back to, as we think about like the depository discussion come down the road or something in the future, is when we sell bonds, we're going to need a place to place that cash as we're doing the project and as we pay bills. So as we place that cash in institutions, we're expected to get about $1 million in revenue, so that'll cover almost 1 annual payment. That'd be a tax levy of $2.70, so that'd be the same calculation we kind of showed last year. What's kind of new moving forward, or an option we can discuss, is we can actually do a 23-year save bond. The reason why we can do that is in 2051, our current revenue purpose statement that ties to save funding actually expires, and we're now within a range where you can actually extend the life of the bond out to 23 years. Doesn't mean we have to. We can still do it at 20 years or less, but that is now an option to extend that save bond out 23 years. And a GeoBond is 20 years max. That would be at $2.70 today, and if property values raise, that can go down, or we can do a surplus levy to try to continue to pay it off early. Interest savings, there's none really specified at this current moment. And the referendum requirements, so the 60% voter approval legislation closed this week. So nothing changed on that end, so we still have to get a 60% supermajority to pass the GeoBond. And the public hearing that we did on the save bond last year, since the amount is down from last year, July 2024 hearing should be able to stick. So we already have that still on the table to use. Also, we'll verify with legal counsel to triple check that, but our impression is that we wouldn't have to go back to a public hearing or a vote at the board table for that save capacity. Option B, this is kind of the projection of what we're thinking if, like Zach was describing, if we reduce a little bit of the square footage based off some of the feedback, we're looking at a total project, so this would be just this project of costing about 54.2 million. Assuming we want to use max save bond, it'd be 19.7 million out of save, leaving 34.5 million on the GO bond. Question, which presents us two different tax levy options when we're doing our budget every year. Remember, when we go to vote, it's a dollar figure, it's not the levy. But if we were to do 34.5 and we wanted to run it out for 20 years, the levy would be $2.40 to $2.50, depending on property value when we sell. But we would have the option also to do $2.70. If we were to do $2.70 as it sits today, we'd pay off that bond in 17 years, which would save $2.7 million in interest over those 3 years of just paid off quicker. And it's the same approval, 60% for the GO bond, and then the July 2024 hearing will still stick for save. So I just want to present those two options to you guys, and kind of have a discussion, or kind of looking for consensus on where you want us to go. There's no vote, just kind of consensus or guidance, next steps.
Yeah, I think just keeping in mind, if we're truly aiming to become a destination district where we all belong, learn, and grow, what's going to be the option that we need to put forward and move on.
I think, the first thing that comes to my mind is I feel like all of us were pretty strongly in agreement that this really is the best thing for our school district, that it is the highest and best use of our tax dollars. And I think, to dumb down any version of this, we would be doing a disservice to our community. We were really close to getting to that 60%. Unfortunately, we fell, just short. Hopefully we can do some more educating around what the actual financial benefits to our community are, and just re-emphasizing how important it is for a small town like ours to have quality schools. We're not going to continue to bring back young people to a small town if we don't have the facilities to teach their kids. And I really feel like the plan that we presented is what our school district needs. It gets us towards that future goal of the one campus. It's the first step. And why spend more time and money unnecessarily to redesign something that we've already, said this is what's best for us.
Well, I agree, where I think I made mine stand. I agree with everything Christy said. I think that, yes, it is very, very important to listen to the people that voted no. Why did you vote no? But I think that we have to listen to the 58% that voted yes. And I think that to be a destination, and I am very pleased with the mission statement that came out, that destination district, that option A, we have to go back in and not redesign it. I think we should go in and ask the community to support fully this mission of their public schools and get a quality building that not only meets our needs now but in the future. And I personally wouldn't even redesign the plan to move the fourth graders there. I've tried my best not to project what happened 60, 50 years ago into the future, because that was another planet. But when I was in elementary school, it was K through 7th grade in each building. And we were able to manage it. And so I think that the plan we had, segregated classes, it aided the throughput through the lunch area. I think it met the needs of our school district now and in the future better than option B. And as far as the $2.7 million savings and interest savings, I think that we can manage that. There should be nothing in the bond indenture that prevents us from adding payments to pay it off early or even refund it if it's there. So we could manage that 2.7 million throughout the 20-year life of this bond, adding extra principal payments if we needed to. So I perfectly agree with everything Christy said, so I endorse that.
And on option A, I didn't map it out where we'd be doing $2.70 a whole 20 years. I did it where it trickled down based on a 3% property value growth. So that's why I'm not showing any interest savings there. We can always go back down the road and map that out too. I'm sure there is savings. I just don't know what it'd be at this moment.
Yeah, I think it's important to note too that our end goal is kind of a K through whatever, because this is just step one. We can't do all of it at once, but eventually we do need to design this correctly in a way that the shared areas are in a place where we can add on to the building. Have the gyms and the lunchrooms kind of in an area where we can add on then, K through 4, K through 5, whatever we need to add on later on to this building, so that we end up with a building that is, end up with one campus would be great eventually, but yeah, getting everything besides the high school in one area should be our two-phase goal here.
Agreed.
And I would just also hope that the public acknowledges that I don't think it's that often that you see a board that's all unanimously in agreement, so adamantly together, and I do feel like our board has that, and so I hope that the community values that in some regard, the fact that we all have put in a lot of time and energy, and we really do feel confident that this is the right plan for our district, and that's why we don't feel like it is the right decision to make these changes, because ultimately we want to do what's best for our community.
We want to be the best stewards of their tax dollars.
I know we want to come up with a number that we want to put on the petition, but it's also going to cost more to build the building we wanted to build last year, now a year later, or 3 years later, whatever, by the time we get there. I guess so. Can we talk about how much more expensive, or can we still build the same building, or?
Yeah, so right now the projection is from $375 a square foot, it's up to $439 a square foot.
Yeah.
So significant increase over the course of really a year. So no, even with that higher number, the 39.5 or whatever it is, probably isn't going to be able to produce 110,000 square foot facility. Again, once we finalize this kind of where we're at here, then we're gonna look at the programming documents, which we spent some time on today, so that Carl and Nelson and their team can really map out what that probably would end up costing for, yeah.
So, we can all be.
I did a back of the envelope calculation, and it's about, at $439 a square foot, it has about $2 million to the project. The building is about $48 million, and then allocating $2 million to tear down the other school. But
And I guess then another component is we want this building to be really flexible, because we don't exactly know our needs over the next 10 to 15 years, right? So it could initially be a 5 through 8 building, it could be it could shift to 2 through 7, it could shift around. So I think we just want to be aware that our district is going to have different needs. I see the destination district as well as everyone here at the table. It might take a few years to get there. It might mean different uses of other buildings. So we have to, I guess, move forward with that real flexibility in what we're creating, so that we're not backed into a corner with something that's only serving the immediate need now.
Yeah, I think flexibility is key. We talked about that a lot in our strategic planning meeting. Just, right now, where enrollment numbers are projecting forward versus, if we get some kids to stay in open enrollments, that could change us dramatically. And, changing what grades we could fit in that building. So flexibility is paramount for sure.
So given our trajectory, approximately what might our enrollment be in 3 years, grades 4 through 8? Is that
I can pull that up for you if you just give me a second.
Yeah, if we go, it's right on here, it's right on this, it's right on the agenda
400
actually.
or something.
And how many years?
3?
So. It'll be 2, 3, 425, 27, 427. That's if this just stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
For how many grades?
That was 4, right?
When you say stay the same, you mean enrollment not decreasing?
In those specific grades, but
Okay.
the other grades wouldn't be there yet to that
Right.
kind of middle level experience. But those right now, we're at 80 right now in our kindergarten class. We have 76 that are currently enrolled for kindergarten for next year already.
Mm-hmm.
So as it continues, those are dropping from the hundreds down to the 80s as far as enrollment goes. So
Now, right now, with our enrollment numbers, if we do in fact continue to maintain the 75 to 90 kids in the kindergarten classes coming up, once we get a handful of years out, would we consider adding additional grade to that building? And
Absolutely.
Will we have that in the designs?
I think that's what Megan was speaking to, the flexibility around what that looks like, because could it mean that we have to move 8th grade up to the high school now, so we have an 8-12 building? Could it mean we shift things around at Pence? Do we move? Yeah, I think those are the discussions we need to have, either in the strategic planning kind of committee world, or the facilities committee world, so we can bring recommendations to the board table. But I do think from a standpoint of facility space-wise, building right now a middle school that's going to be flexible and able to adjust based on kind of how things go. We want them to go here, but they may stay here for a while, and who knows.
So I think having that flexibility is going to be key, because that's one thing we were selling last time. It seemed like to me we kind of had specific what wings were going to go to certain grades and so on and so forth, and it seems like to me that could change between the time design phase and even having constructed, especially within the first few years of having kids there. And obviously some things are going on in Fairfield that we hope will get our enrollment numbers driven up a little bit, but that's really yet to be seen. So
I think it's really hard to, even project that far out because there are so many factors. Online schooling became really, trendy after COVID, and, maybe we see that, go down and get more enrollment that way, or maybe something happens in a nearby district and we see some, increased enrollment around that. Or, the new housing developments, hopefully that's bringing in, new families. So I think it's just really hard to project, accurately, and that is why we have to, have that flexibility to be able to kind of pivot and do what works best.
The one thing I think we can accurately forecast is that building is not usable for our long-term goals.
Right, absolutely.
And yeah,
I'll get into that.
we need to do something about it for sure. And a new space would be, the most flexible we can look at. Our existing spaces were built in times where flexibility was not top of mind. Anything we do build coming up will be at least more flexible than what we have. As flexible as we can make it.
Mark Thornton, do you have any thoughts?
Some of the ones that were brought up at some of those meetings too was you can reduce like that third wing, whatever you want to call it, at some point. But again, you don't want to reduce the others because we need to have that flexibility of moving it in even later. So even if you do take a slice now, you don't want to really reduce the commons or reduce, some of the other spaces, because you want to be able to, again, get that one campus. So it's a matter of, do you do it all at once? Do you do most of it and slide that in as, get most of it done and add another one? There's more complexity there. So,
I think you have to, keep in mind too, like it's not gonna get less expensive, it's gonna get more expensive. And, to cut a small portion is not really going to save much money because you're still, paying the overall cost of the project and the design and everything. So, to go back and cut things, you're spending more money to redesign and do, these things, and again, in the long run, it's gonna end up costing you more money if you do have to go add additional space.
I think one thing I always want to mention is for me, this is probably, since being on this board, this has been one of the most difficult things is for me to wrap my head around, because I work and I feel like represent a lot of people that don't really have much of a vested interest in the district. So it's not so much, the people I'm thinking of aren't people that so much have a concern about the children, it's more concern about how their tax dollars are being managed. And I have seen too many scenarios right now, and I've seen too many bids and too many things that need to be done in that building, that I just don't see any other way other than it just being simply much more inexpensive to actually build a building than actually continue to maintain that. And I think that's what has to be maintained. I want to be honest with you guys, in my position, if I saw that it was going to be more expensive to maintain or keep that building, I would probably be pushing the other way, and this wouldn't be a unanimous board. But I've been sitting through this for too long and too many meetings to really look the other way. And that's what I want the community to start to realize, because it just, I don't want to say it's an unfixable building, because anything is fixable, but there's just been too many things that have been done wrong on that building for too many years that I think we can get it feasibly rectified, and that's why it's going to be so key to make sure this new one gets done right. So,
Mark, on a cash flow basis, if it was feasible to renovate and would cost the district less, I'd vote with you.
yeah.
But I can't vote to renovate this building, because just run the numbers, it's better to have a 110,000 square foot building than it is to even try to renovate this.
I've been sitting through these meetings for 4 years, and I still continuously get phone calls from people upset with me. Why would you be in support of this in your position and the environment that you work in? Because ultimately it's going to cost us less money. I truly believe that. So, if it's done right, it has to be done right.
So, bond question last year was for $38,515,000, correct?
Yep.
So you're proposing here in option A would go up to 39.5.
Correct.
Okay. I think that's one of the questions we will get, which is obviously just every year you wait, it's going to get more and more expensive for less and less square footage. So,
Do you remember what it was
I found that
2 years
the other day.
before? 34 and a half-ish. And we weren't planning on using save funds,
Okay.
at least to my knowledge.
Oh, wow.
That's all right. And Evan knows, Charles City, they built a middle school with only save funds for less than 20 million, 8 years ago?
2017, $19 million brand new middle school.
Every year we don't get this done, it costs more money. I don't see construction costs going down in the future.
So do we need a vote or what?
We're not voting, but we would want maybe a consensus, or I don't know.
Yeah, we don't need to take a vote, but I mean, I'm hearing.
Everyone seems more towards option A, but can you talk about why we'd wanna? I mean, is that kind of do you guys feel like we wanna go, and we can somehow manage the, just, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was thinking, once we get back from FEH and Carly Nelson, as we kind of program some of these things, what they think it's gonna cost, if the 34 and a half plus the save won't cover that with a good cushion just for all the different things, then I think we would go to that other number. But if we can do it with that, thinking about kind of this flexible mindset, with the intent of having you know, this one campus eventually moving that K kind of 4 over at some point with another space. If we can do that at 34 and a half, great. With this first phase, I guess, would there be pushback, or would you guys, if it was only 5th through 8th, is that gonna be something that's, you're not in support of, I guess is the question.
What were the numbers? About a quarter of the people listed that as a possibility of why they didn't vote for it?
33 out of the 121 that voted no said it was because of the grade band structure. And again, I don't think we wanna build it off of the grade band structure if we're really thinking about, we may have to move some things, you know, in the next 3 to 5 years after we open it. There's still some programming that has to happen because of the grade levels, but I think they can be creative. And what FEH told us is, right now, I mean, they're willing to update the design as it sits, free of charge, kind of based on what we decide from a programming space standpoint, which is nice.
I think the consensus is the 110,000 square foot building.
If we can get it with the 39 and a half.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the grade bands don't really go into that, right? So
Right.
we're just talking about
I mean,
square
we
footage
can,
mostly.
we can, right now, it would still be a 4 to 8 building, but that doesn't, I don't think we need to be trapped into that.
Okay.
Because we may wanna move 8th grade to the high school at some point.
And it could be in 4 years, grades 3 to 7.
But I think the 110,000 square foot building gives us the greater flexibility.
Yeah.
And the cash flow numbers are telling us that we can do that at $439 a square foot. So I think what we should do is tell FEH and Carly Nelson, our consensus is 110,000 square feet at 439 with a $2 million tear down.
And I think the program that we went through today with them was 105,000 square feet is what we did today, was the program we went through. Now, we looked at that and subtracted some here, added some there. It was me, Evan, Megan, Courtwright, Carly, Wiley. Do we have anyone else there? So we were looking at all these spaces, and it was at 105,036 square feet. So I'm guessing it's gonna be close to that or a little bit above. And there's some spots where we probably could go back up from a storage standpoint. But we did change some of the room sizes. What was originally programmed back this last time, there were some spaces that weren't big enough, some that maybe were a little bit too big, so.
But that's 2 gyms as well.
Correct.
We did not compromise on it.
No, the only spaces we were looking at compromising were some additional classrooms.
And that is also moving the district office.
Correct. Yep.
And the savings there was, you thought $50K a year for moving the district offices over?
Yeah.
53,000 a year. And we didn't hear, there was no negative feedback around that idea in any of the feedback we got.
Where does that much savings come from? I mean, just simply.
I mean, that's just, those are some really like easy hard costs, so that's utilities, electrical bill.
Insurance.
Insurance, some disposal fees like trash cans, so it's just mainly like the everyday fees. That's before we get into, you know, maybe some tech changes or bathroom sharing or.
But then do we still leave the school buses, the maintenance?
Yeah, so the school bus or maintenance barn will still exist, it'd be just this specific building.
But
So
then you
there's-
still have to have a market for this building then too, and.
Yeah, we'd have to sell it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there has to be a business that has a use for it too, and not unload the, I mean, I don't know how you place a value in this building is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of office space.
I don't think the 53 was putting a value on this building though.
No.
That's
Yeah.
ongoing costs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't like what we would, if we sold it for 500 grand, that wasn't including that at all.
Yeah. I'm just saying I have no idea what this would bring, so. There's a lot of available office space in Fairfield, so.
It's in pretty good condition.
Yeah, it is.
It should have some value for sure.
Any other thoughts?
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, should we take a very brief recess or is there?
Yeah, let's
Checking.
I can take a minute.
Do you want to do the consent agenda first and then
Yeah,
then do it?
sure.
Just to get through that.
Sounds good. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? Nothing. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Public participation, real quick.
Just none.
Seeing none, we'll move on to new business after a brief recess
Perfect.
Thank you.
at 8:15.
I should go for a camera.
That rowdy crowd.
We'll begin again 8:21 p.m. New business. Do I hear a motion to approve Iowa State Bank and Trust Company as the official depository for the Fairfield Community School District in accordance with the stipulations outlined in the banking services request for proposal?
So moved.
Deborah and Mark Thornton. Any discussion here?
Evan, do you want to fill us in on this?
Yeah, I get started a little bit. You know, obviously we put out an RFP to remove all of the funds from ISJIT and get them in one of our local financial institutions and really go away from having multiple accounts with multiple banks locally. And things we wanted to look at, and I'll let Evan kind of walk through the rubric. Number one was interest rate, making sure that they're at or above what ISJIT has been providing us. And then the second piece to that was really just the overall, I don't know if I would say customer service and community involvement and just history around being a part of Fairfield. So those were kind of the two pieces as we look through this.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's 5 categories that we kind of scored. So the committee was made up of Megan Dowd Robbins as the finance committee representative, just due to affiliations. Zach Weigel, myself, and Tracy Watt, who's our payroll manager. We met with all besides one bank in person, but we had several phone conversations with that bank throughout this process. But like Zach alluded to, we were really looking at ISJIT current interest rate and make sure it was at or above. ISJIT, when we were doing this bid, was at 4.08%. Iowa State Bank came in at 4.23%, so that was above the current ISJIT rate, which would have generated additional $25,500 worth of revenue spread out across all the funds that encompasses. The question I have received is, was that the highest interest rate? And the answer is no, but it was close to the highest one, but the difference of what they proposed was a quarter-long lock-in with a floor. So it was not gonna dip below 4.23% during a quarter, and it could go up depending on what rates or what metrics they're using at the given time, so they provided some stability.
But it could go down after that quarter, but then it would stay at whatever that was for a quarter.
Correct, and they agreed to meet with us on a quarterly basis to see what they're analyzing, what their rates are currently doing, kind of see what ISJIT's doing, and consistently communicating and making sure it's competitive. So the stability, along with interest rate increase, was a major factor in that decision. Availability and quality of services. 3 of the banks did a really, really nice job. They actually all got 11s out of 12. You know, just participation in the school, advocacy for the school. 3 of the banks did a really, really nice job on that. Bank stability, so we're measuring assets, but what we were very closely looking at there as a group was assets loaned out back into our local community. So Fairfield, Jefferson County as a whole, so we put that money in, it goes back into our local economy, so we were asking percentage of assets loaned out locally, so that's how we're kind of managing bank stability. Technology and innovation, actually across the board, they all got the same score. You guys can see that in the RFP. They all had unique technology features, but it all was right there. I guess we didn't really have a clear mindset of what a perfect 12 would be, but they were all very, very comparable. And then the last big piece was cost conversion. The cost conversion really tied to, we're transferring, as it sits today, about $17 million. I didn't want to have a huge wire fee or a percentage for that transfer over, because that could be a detriment to the district or unpredicted financial costs. So we were really looking at the cost conversion of moving funds over to the bank. So yeah, that was kind of our thought process as we went out, and you can see the total sum of scores there. It was close between 2 banks, but tallied them up as is, and I'm recommending the high score for the bank bid.
Any other questions? So we're gonna vote, but I know that maybe,
I'd like to do this by roll call.
okay. And there'll be a few people recusing themselves.
Any more discussion?
Sorry, go ahead.
All right. Mark Porter.
Aye.
Ty Ward.
Abstain.
Christy Kessel.
Abstain.
Megan Robbins.
Aye.
Mark Thornton.
Aye.
Deborah Williamson.
Aye.
Dave Eastburn.
Abstain.
Passes 4-0, 3 abstaining.
Great. 8.2, do I hear a motion to approve June 16th, 2025 at 6:30 PM for holding a public hearing on the proposed 2024-2025 budget amendment for the Fairfield Community School District as required by Iowa Code?
So moved.
Second.
Christine, aye. All right, discussion here. This is
This
what
is
we
what
talked
Dave
about earlier.
shared in
Yeah.
his report, yep.
Any questions on what Dave was talking about? Makes sense. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, some capital projects. Do I hear a motion to approve the bid from Unified in the amount of $29,920 for services related to the 2025-2026 capital projects to be paid from the PEPAL Fund?
So moved.
Second.
Deborah and Mark Thornton. All right, any other discussion here?
So the Unified, what's that about?
Yeah, so we go to gas bids every year and we're waiting on those results, but we get bulk fuel to deliver to our fuel pumps behind the bus station. They're just out of date, out of service, not pumping gas quickly anymore. So with some savings that came out of actually the roof bid that you guys will look at later on, Josh proposed that we update those pumps to better take care of our buses. He reached out to 2 or 3 different contractors to bid. One did not, and Unified was the lowest bid, and he was happy with the product. So we replaced in our fuel pumps over at the bus barn.
So you guys just have gas tanks there, no diesel tanks? Is that right?
And there's 2 different pumps. I believe one is diesel. So when I see the bills come through, you'll see diesel, bulk fuel, and gas. Bulk
Are you
fuel.
replacing both gas and diesel tanks, or
Yep, it would be both the tanks.
how many diesel vehicles and buses do we even have anymore?
Oh geez, I think we are running 3 or 4 diesel buses right now. They're the ones that aren't on the lease, mainly our special education buses.
The only reason I was asking is, do they all have to be replaced? I mean, is the diesel ones necessary?
Yeah, so how they tie together for the fuel and how the bids work. Yeah, they like become as a, I don't know if you've ever seen like the unit at the gas station, like that, to suck it in, so it's just make sure the lines work.
Oh, the only reason I'm asking is just, just for only 3 or 4 buses, if it was necessary to spend the money or not, so.
We do know when we do the bulk fuel that pays for itself having it on campus through those bids, so.
Oh, yeah.
Do we know how old the current ones are? The lifespan on the new pump?
Oh, geez.
Sorry.
It's a great question. I mean, they've been there since that building was pretty much put in. So I don't wanna say that year out loud because I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it's
Been a while.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Any other questions? Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve the bid from Manning Commercial Roofing excluding the high school gym roof as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Deborah and Christie. Discussion here on these bids?
Yeah, so Wiley did a good job. He reached out to 3 different roofing companies based on the product that we need. Manning was the only company to submit a bid. A couple people said they were not going to submit a bid or be able to compete, or the travel or the capacity to even get it completed this summer. Josh was very pleased with what they did, and as I said, they came in lower than what he was expecting, which allowed him to do the fuel pumps. So recommendation is Manning Roofing as presented, excluding the high school gym roof, which will get pushed to the 26-27 capital plan.
Is that just because of expense or? why?
It was, so we were talking about this solar conversation, so we moved all the fence roofs over, so Josh was trying to estimate what other roofs after that change because the Pence roofs are still in good shape compared to other ones, so he was trying to push as many out within the budget, and that one came in about where he expected, but it would put us 10 grand over budget for the year, and he said that's really the next roof that needs to go, so he'd rather move that out one more year. And
So these just got pushed up because we got rid of the solar project, right?
yeah, so he went back and reanalyzed which roofs are more pertinent now if we weren't gonna do a solar project.
Have we worked with this roofing company before?
Yes, he's had experience between old jobs and current jobs. And he's gone up on all of our roofs and done core sampling and recommended products, and some of this plan changed slightly based on, he's like, this one's actually worse than this one, I recommend doing this, and so he's been really good to work with.
So you said excluding the high school gym. I mean, so the four. I mean, are we doing all four of these sections right now then? The roof 1 at Washington, roof 5 at Washington, roof 15 at the high school, and roof 21 at the high school. Because I thought you said something about excluding the gym.
Yeah, so if you look on page 3 of the bid in there, you'll see number 1 gym roofs, 15,000 square feet, exclude crossed out. So everything that's not crossed out is what would be getting completed.
Okay.
Any other questions? You guys still looking through it, or? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve WIT Industries to create and supply additional engraved trash cans as requested?
So moved.
Second.
Ty and Christie.
This ties to the marketing budget. We allot and recurring expenses every year for $50,000, as we discussed in facilities committee a couple meetings back. We purchased a bunch with the Trojan heads. They're heavier. Last year, what we've noticed throughout the year is areas that trash is still left. So usually the answer is more trash cans. So
These are the same ones we got last time.
Yep.
That are around.
Yep. How much money is this, and how many are we getting?
It's 11 grand, I think.
it's 11 grand, and
How many trash cans?
Should say on there 6 or 7, 15,
15.
21, 20, 21.
yeah, that sounds right.
21.
15 and 6.
I mean, these are relatively indestructible, right? I mean, they should last very long term.
Yeah, and one of the big pieces is that they're heavy, they're stainless steel, coated properly. Our custodians and maintenance crew has seen a drastic decrease in the amount of time they spend picking up trash every morning. So
Are they mostly going to middle school and high school, or?
I think it's scattered kind of throughout the district, but I think the majority of them are going to the high school, like around the parking lot area.
areas, yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, board policy, new items. Do I hear a motion to approve the board policies with no change?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Ty and Mark. Any discussion here? These are, as Mark mentioned, these are the 900 series. Just kind of the general communication policies. No change. Any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve board policies with change and waive a second reading?
So moved.
Second.
Christie and Dave. Any questions here on the change?
The reason behind the waive of the second reading is it's just grammatical errors. We had extra words in there, so it's not any content change. It's just
Shalls and some other.
shall and be's that don't need to be in there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve board policies for deletion?
So moved.
Aye.
Second.
Aye, Mark. Any questions, discussion?
this one we went through, it doesn't say a lot, it's not required. So we got a discussion about it, just thought it would clean it up. Yeah.
Redundant. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, do I hear a motion to approve rescheduling the regularly stated July meeting of the Board of Directors to July 14th, 2025, and to hold a work session prior to the meeting beginning at 5 p.m.?
So moved.
Second. Mark and Christie. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright. Do I hear a motion to approve the milk bid submitted by Anderson Erickson, as recommended by the food service director?
So moved.
Second.
Christie and Mark Thornton. Any discussion here? It sounds like
Has Prairie Farms ever serviced us, or is that?
We've been A mainly since Stephanie's been here. Every couple years or every year she has to go out to bid, and we're required to serve milk as part of the dietary guidelines. So she reaches out to Prairie Farms every time, and they send letters back like this saying we're not going to bid. So she sent out 4 letters, and A still didn't want to bid, and so usually their letters talk about a shortage or they can't get enough supply for us in our area. So.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Milk bid carries. Do I hear a motion to approve the 2024-2025 graduates as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Ty and Mark Porter. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
How many graduates do we have this year?
We'll be right at close to 100. We'll have a couple that'll be game time decision.
Dave Eastburn. Eastburn, 1972.
8.8, do I hear a motion to approve True North statement of work as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Dave and Christie. Any questions, discussion here?
So the HR committee, what's been your guys' feelings working with them?
I've only been on one of their initial meetings. I do believe that was there. I mean, seems like people are, I guess, excited about it. I don't know. There hasn't been much that I've heard of, so.
Yeah, I don't know if excited is the word, but they're pleasantly surprised by, I would say, the customer service so far. The onboarding process, we've had 4 of those dates. Feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. I do think once we really get to the change come July, there's going to be more questions and more clarity that probably is going to need to be shared. But
And they're going to be your front line for taking care of those questions, or just supplying you guys with the info so you can answer it?
No, they'll be our go-to. Now, when you think about a TPA and having a separate entity, Consociate Health, who really handles the claims, that's probably where Evan and Tracy will spend more of their communication at times, because we're paying those now. So that'll be different for the back house. But on the front end, it's going to be, and we told True North this up front, you're the ones that we hired to be the people that talk to our people. So there's still maybe some pieces, because we have it's called Med One, which is all the pharmacy side of things. So there's a whole part there. So Evan and I have been meeting with them, with Consociate Health, and then there's another party for our HSA, FSA component, and that's another party. So there's a lot of pieces that are moving in this, and True North really is the one that oversees and kind of brokers all of it. So time will tell. I mean, really, whether or not it's good customer service and our people feel like they get what they need, or it's been seamless. But it's going to be a shift.
What was the final deductible thing there we had figured out?
Like the different options.
No, with getting the information from
Walmart.
Yes.
Yeah, we finally got the majority of the data that we needed. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we were able to go to Stop Loss and get the different quotes, and all of that it all worked at the last year.
6 days before open enrollment.
And this will take effect July.
July 1.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, technology. Lease. Do I hear a motion to approve the 3-year lease board resolution for the technology refresh as presented, including the application of buyback funds to reduce year 1 and year 3 payments, with annual payments not to exceed the quoted amounts, while acknowledging payment dates may be adjusted to align with physical plant and equipment levy revenue, with payments made on or around October 15th of each year, 2025, 2026, and 2027. Deborah
Second.
and Christie.
All right, I have questions about this one. The how much are we saving for moving to iPad instead of MacBooks?
Yeah, so the iPads are $324 a piece. A MacBook Air was 700 and. John, what was the MacBook Air? Is it?
It was just over 800.
Yeah. So from 800 down to 324.
Why are they so much more expensive?
Well, I think it's for me personally. This might be an age thing. I think iMacs are way easier to use, and I'm way more productive on a laptop type thing than an iPad. See, I was just going to ask, like, have you guys thought about like just kind of differences in productivity in the kids going from a laptop like iMac to iPad where they're touching and everything? Like, I'm thinking about kids typing on those things and not on a keyboard.
So they'll have a keyboard.
They have a keyboard attached.
So the whole, it's one piece, but it opens up, stands up just like this. The keyboard isn't quite as big as this one, but it's going to have the same feel. It's got the same touchpad. It still has the touchscreen capability, obviously, because it's an iPad, but it'll all be right here. The plug-in, it'll have the headphone jack, just like these do. We've been piloting them since mid-February at the middle school and high school. Some kids have, enjoyed them, some haven't. So they'll still have it'll still be this same capability. It's just not as big.
And they have good cases on them, so we're gonna not have a bunch of broken
The
ones.
case that they were the case that they wanted us to get was actually more expensive, but then I kind of pushed back and I'm like, it feels different. And I kind of, to your point, so we had them find some other ones that they've used or that they haven't used but they're going to use. And so we're going with one that was about $10 cheaper, but it seems from what we've gathered to be just as durable and probably more conducive to the feeling of a laptop.
Tristan, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, from what I've heard from him, after I had my meeting with him today, I went in and looked at like the case brand that we're thinking of buying. I'm thinking the case it looks like an iPad, or it looks like a MacBook from what I'm seeing, with like the keys. Like, I know this one, the one that we're like thinking of getting, the keys are more marketed as this is like a laptop, and it seems like a laptop. Me personally, haven't been in a class yet where they're test driving them, but I've had friends from those classes, and they're saying that the iPads are just as seamless as the MacBooks, and they work as well. So.
Cool.
And the screen sizes are
Not as big as this. It would be like the what's that one? It'd be that size. Yep.
Operating system's a little different. You're using.
It's still
apps.
iOS. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There's apps built in, but from a Chrome and Safari standpoint,
They use the same.
The biggest thing to me would be like on an iPad, you wouldn't be able to do like tabs, like have different programs working at the same time. Kind of, they've got differences there between the iMacs and the iPads that I would notice.
another difference will be kids are going to have their own Apple ID that's connected to their device through school, so that's going to be different. For a variety of reasons. A lot of it has to do with security and safety. But yeah, the other option we looked at was Chromebooks, and those are significantly cheaper too. More of the laptop type design. I'm sure you guys are familiar with them, but just from a overall usability standpoint and upkeep. The district I worked in prior had a lot of those, and it just was kind of a nightmare. All of our staff will still get the MacBook Airs, the new ones, and then one of the additions to this is going to be keeping back some of the newest MacBook Airs that we do have, so that we can issue those to our paraprofessionals as part of their employment with us, just from a supporting student standpoint and from being able to do some of the things we ask them to do, so they're not doing it on their phone all the time. So.
The last component on the financial end that I wanted to say out loud is we're also purchasing Apple Care with this product. So it's an overnight replacement for a charger, broken screen, so forth onwards. You get 2 per year per device, so up to 6 in the lifespan, free of charge to replace it. But why we went that route is a little bit of an added cost, but I'm able to back off our insurance, equipment maintenance insurance on the number of devices we insure. So the cost of Apple Care, moving it to the PEPL based on that vote, and relieving the insurance costs out of the management fund over the 3-year period should assist on the tax levy as well. Currently we pay about $196,000 a year to insure all of our devices. And when we looked at Apple Care, we looked at like $70,000. So if you look at the 3-year trend around that, we're a couple $100,000 ahead on that management levy. So.
Well, I love a good bargain, but I'm concerned about the, and I have never read a study that proves this, but I assume that with a smaller screen, productivity might go down, only because my own experience with big screens and more screens. But then I don't have that experience as a student using a smaller screen. So what do you think about screen size?
I'm thinking the screen size won't matter that much because I did some slight research on these iPads too. I believe the screen size is around 11 inches, and these are only 13 inches, I believe. So I don't think a 2-inch difference will sway that much in productivity. That's my 2 cents. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I love the saved money and all that. I'm just, if it was me personally, my work told me that I was moving to an iPad, I would throw a huge fit.
Well, we didn't tell our employees that they're doing that. Just our students.
Right. So I'm putting myself in their shoes, but yeah, I'm willing to give it a shot.
So it's a 3-year lease, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens after the 3-year lease typically? I mean, that's kind of where we're at now.
Yeah, so we could do a couple different things. You can sell back some of them. The buyback is part of it. If we wanted to keep some or lease some longer or purchase them outright, we could do that. I mean, it's a variety of options, kind of based on where we're at or what we need.
And the buyback's part of this motion too, right?
It is.
Because we're getting $310,000 back for our old
Yep, and
stuff.
some of that'll be Apple purchasing it, and others would be a third-party vendor that's buying the ones that maybe Apple won't. And I was just saying the quotes that we got are like the very lowest pot. Like we're for sure going to get this no matter what. It may be more.
So yeah, the buyback's part of it because you'll see year 1 payment. It's going to say like $600,000, but that includes the buyback on top of it. In our current PEPL plan, budget's $209,000 per year for the Apple lease. But with that buyback, it's actually be $155,000 a year. So we're just front loading. So pretty much what's on the table is you're telling them to use that trade-in money to put towards the first payment, which is to buy the year 2 and 3 down. 0% interest.
It's rare. All right. Well, any other? Mark?
This other, like this old contract, is it just because we're amending it because we've already had the one that's in place?
So no, they're showing you that old contract because that contract ties to the ones we're selling back. So when that board approved those devices, they wanted to show essentially what agreement they're going off of on the buyback.
Gotcha. I was trying to put dates together and it didn't make any sense, but that makes sense.
I asked the same question.
All right. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Susan? superintendent updates.
Yeah, hopeful to get our ISASP published reports early June, so as soon as we get those, we're gonna celebrate as much as we can and highlight and communicate a lot of that proficiency growth that we've seen so far in-house. Can't share all of that yet just because it's not final, but there's a lot of exciting things there. I just want to thank Judy too, on the back end of all she does with so many things, but specifically with ISASP. She does a lot of work that takes the pressure and things off of our principals. A lot of what she did is what in my prior districts I did as a building principal. They don't have to do that here because she does a lot of it, so that's a huge blessing. We had, excuse me, just over 30 students receive a IRC, which is an industry recognized credential. There's tons of these types of credentials, but we had students in welding, health sciences, and the education field all receive these IRCs. And I've asked our CTE team to share some information with me so that I can apply for some grants through the Department of Ed that would allow them to get certified so that kids that take their classes can get these IRCs as well. So it'll kind of depend on how much information I get from them. I've got to get it all submitted before the end of the month, but that's a good thing. Like we had talked about SIAC, invited around 35 individuals, some new people, the team that was there prior. And our first meeting is June 4th. We're really going to set the tone for what the purpose of that group is, walk through our new mission and vision, and then we'll have a couple other things on the agenda that night as well, set some dates. We'll probably have 4 dates for sure that we'll set for next year. I talked about this I think earlier too, but we had 3 conference championships this spring. Both our tennis teams and our boys track and field team. Benefits for our open enrollment connected to all things. Health plan ends on the 30th of May, and then it starts July 1st. I just want to publicly thank all of you as a servant of the district. Sitting on the board is not an easy task. I know you get a lot of things thrown at you or sent your way, and just walking through those professionally can be a lot of times, and I thank you for your service and enjoy working with you, so appreciate that. The last piece was again connected to our paraprofessionals. As we've given this belonging survey, that subgroup of employee, there's definitely a sense of or lack of sense of belonging, and so we had established a para lead team that Evan's kind of taken the lead on. They've met throughout the course of the year, identifying some things that we could do to better serve or support them so they feel more valued or appreciated. Part of that was getting them all together. We did that about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, to get some input around how we can do that, some structured questions. We've gathered that information. We're all going to be back together again on June 3rd. We probably had about 50 that came out of the 75 or so, but we're going to continue those conversations and start implementing some things next year that hopefully will allow allow them to feel more connected and better part of the system. So that's all I got.
Thanks. All right, highlights. Tristan, would you like to start?
Sure, I can start. I don't have to piggyback off someone for once. I know Jay Thompson isn't here anymore, but it was a really nice, neat, put together presentation that he gave, and it really provided an insight onto what like our counselors do around school. And I thought that was just really cool with how like in depth he went and how everything was so easily understandable about what he had.
Awesome, thanks. Deborah.
I'm super excited to move forward with the GeoBond process and hopefully build the new middle school.
I would ditto both of what they said.
I will pull out of what something Jay talked about was Trojan Time. So both my kids have been through the middle school, or one's still in it, but I think the Trojan Time is a really cool cool asset that they have there. Just interacting, like he was saying, with the different grades. So just something that I think is a cool thing to pull in. And as he said, as they go to the high school, they know some people, at least a handful from different grades that they've had in the Trojan times. So I've heard some pretty cool stories from at least my kids. So yeah, I think that's a cool plus that sometimes gets overlooked, of just simple things that they're doing for, what is it, like 8 minutes or something at the beginning of the day. So yeah, cool stuff.
Thanks. Ty.
Graduates. It's graduation week. We okayed 100 or so people in order to, after Sunday, start their post-high school lives, which is pretty awesome. And I just looked at the forecast. There's a 70% chance of rain, so we might be looking at my first personal indoor graduation, possibly. We'll test out that new AC. We always use that as an excuse for AC in the gym.
Thanks, Mark.
I think my highlights would be the title team. I really enjoyed their presentation. I really appreciate the hard work that they put into the helping out those lower levels. You know, I think it's incredible the progress that they've been made in those buildings when it comes to some of those top those items. And then I think the other thing would be the milk bid. You know, I loved milk when I was a kid. And you know, anyways, just I think when you're in elementary school. What? No, anyways, I'm kind of joking about the milk thing, but you know, it's I always hear my kids talk about it, and they really enjoy it. So I'm glad that we approved that, and they get some good Anderson eggs and milk. So there we go. I'll get serious.
It's hard to follow. Milk bid, Millie.
Come on.
It's just simple things.
Well, my highlight was I did get a chance on May 8th to make a presentation to the Jefferson County Republicans and Jefferson County Republican women. I was invited to come. It was a very productive evening. I really enjoyed it. I was able to go through how we calculate our levy and the drivers behind the levy calculation, and got to go through and explain the value, the valuation on the property and the application of the rollback. And so we had a very productive presentation. As Helena Hayes from House District 88, she's on the Education Committee, was also present, as well as Jeff Shipley, House District 87. He's on the Education Committee too. And they had Rob Sand from the state auditors, who's now running for governor on the Democratic side. So that was an interesting evolution. So we were able to also talk about school funding at the state level and do a little talking also about the proposed property tax adjustments and how it would affect schools. So we were able to do that, and I was there till 10:30 at night answering questions. I tried to stay in my lane and not embarrass the family, and I hope that I did. But I would encourage people that if you do get the opportunity to talk to groups, I think it'd be great to engage our community. And I was also able to talk to them about why we meet in public, not with the public, and the frustrations we have, and ask them to stay after the meeting so we could engage them, and the frustrations we have and why that is. So I thought it was really good. I think we convinced them. We talked a bit about the new middle school, and I think I went a long way to convince some people that voted no last time. So I would encourage people to, if you get an invitation or whatever, take it. Just as long as Megan knows she's the spokesman to keep saying it. So anyway, that was my highlight.
Great, thank you. As always, the focus on learning, I always appreciate hearing and getting that insight into what's happening in the buildings. I got an invitation to go with the fifth graders to the Capitol, so I did that last week. It's really great to see the kids learning outside of the classroom too. I think those opportunities are really, really wonderful for them. So I'm glad that we do that, you know, at the end of the year, or whenever through the year, but I know there's a lot at the end of the year in terms of special trips and fun things for them to do as well, so that's it. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Second?
I second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
We're
Aye.
no one wants to look.
Well, I
We're
want to hear
adjourned
about the milk.
at 9:02.
Hey, I'm a